This is episode 6 of the Online Learning Podcast. Are you making the most of the person you can be? Online learning is your gateway to expanding your horizons in a direction you may not even have thought of. Hello, I'm John COLLEY. Here on the Online Learning Podcast, we challenge you to find the online learning courses to take you to your next level. Expert in something? Why not create your own course and monetize that expertise? Come on, open this door with me and step inside the Online Learning Podcast. Welcome to episode 6 of the Online Learning Podcast. And today I've got a cracker for you because I've got the very one and only iPhone video hero, Jules Watkins, who's coming to talk to us not only about how to make amazing videos with the iPhone, but also how to do really clever things with Screenflow as well. So that's a really exciting interview which is going to suit both course creators who want to improve their course making and also any of you who want to do clever things with iPhones or learn more about Screenflow. So that's something to look forward to a little bit later, but let's start off with our marketing tip of the week. And now the Online Learning Podcast's marketing tip of the week. This week I want to talk to you about coupon sites. Having a course on an online learning platform such as Udemy is all about getting out there yourself and doing your own marketing. You can't rely on Udemy, although they do a great job, to do all your marketing for you. And one of the effective ways of doing that is to get one of your discount coupons up on a popular coupon site, which draws all the traffic to it, so you haven't got to create the traffic. All you've got to do is create the offer and get it up onto the site. Now, examples of those are sites like OzBargain, Fat Wallet, Slick Deals, and you go to those sites and register, and if they permit self-promotion, and not all of them do, then you can submit your offer up onto the site. If you are not allowed to self-promote, then the way to get around that is to try to get somebody to promote your coupon for you onto the site. You should also be aware that a number of these sites have stopped people from online learning sites such as Udemy submitting their coupons. So that is a restriction you may come across, but it is worth persevering. And you can also, when you're out tweeting, you can use the @ sign for some of these sites. Don't do it too much or they'll think you're spamming, but you can put out the occasional tweet with a coupon on it and put an @ sign on that, and that will also perhaps help them to pick up your promotion and put it up onto their site. That's it for this week's marketing tip. Work out how to get your discount coupons out onto coupon sites which have got lots and lots of followers and therefore lots of people who can go and look at your offer and hopefully convert it into a sale on your course site. Now it's time for this week's interview, and I'm very excited to bring you Jules Watkins, the eponymous iPhone video hero, who has gone from TV production and moved into online courses, particularly focused around the iPhone and what you can do with it for making videos. So without further delay, let's go across to this week's interview. And now it's time for this week's Course Creator Interview. In today's episode, I'm really actually very excited to welcome Jules Watkins, who is a hero of mine, but he's also the author of iVideo Hero. And he is an expert in making videos, and particularly making videos with the iPhone. So this should be an interview which is of particular interest, not just to people who want to learn how to do that, but also to anybody who's trying to make courses for online learning. So, Jules, thank you very much for your time. Welcome to the Online Learning Podcast.
Yeah, thanks very much. Thanks for inviting me. Look forward to it.
I suppose the first thing to do is to start off is just to ask you who you are and what you do, because I'd like people to get a sense of your background, particularly your TV background.
Yeah, sure. I'll do the very lightning fast version of it. So basically, I'm in a very fascinating transition, really. Having worked first of all, as a photographer, I then moved into television, and I spent many years working my way up, climbing myself up the ladder to become a television director in the UK here. So after a few years of struggle, I made it up to become a television director and a producer, working on some big shows here in the UK for channels like BBC and Channel 4 and even MTV as well. And that was an amazing experience, but of course very, very demanding on your time and on your energy, and you have to really be totally committed to give over your entire life to a TV career. As I got a little bit older and kids came along, I started looking around and thinking, what could I do to leverage all this knowledge that I had built up, and how could I basically escape the rat race and do something more on my own? And through various twists and turns, including blogging and choosing entirely the wrong niches, I ended up deciding to actually do the obvious thing, which was to teach entrepreneurs and online business owners how to use and create amazing videos to help them sell more of their products. And that's where you find me right now. I've stopped working in TV after a couple of years of working hard on what I'm doing, and now I'm literally living the so-called laptop lifestyle, although it's a lot harder work than people make it out.
Laptop lifestyle, I haven't heard that one before, but that's very good. So your focus is obviously around the iPhone. How did you come to do that? How did that come about? Because I've got a couple of. I've got a Nikon and I've got various other digital cameras, and never really gave serious consideration until fairly recently to using my iPhone for making movies as such. I was always going back to the bigger cameras. I thought my phone was a phone.
Yes, good point. Well, several reasons. One reason is having spent years carting around boxes of equipment. And when I was TV directing, I also was shooting as well. So I would end up filming a fair part of the TV shows as well myself. That was the nature of TV changing to becoming a kind of multi-skilled profession. And I spent my life literally moving boxes of equipment from my car to people's houses and back into the car again and on aeroplanes. So I was very much tired of having tons of equipment. That was one reason. So as I bought my first iPhone and started using it, I thought, how liberating is this, that you don't need to have so many fiddly bits of equipment and accessories and extras, and also the weight of it. You could just slip it into your man bag, if you have a man bag, John, and you could basically take it with you everywhere. To me, that's absolutely liberating. And using it, what I call the iPhone video advantage, being able to actually use your iPhone when the situation presents itself. So when you happen to meet a customer, there you've got your camera with you. So using the portability, to create, for example, a testimonial, using the advantage of the size, that was one reason. The second reason was really I wanted to make information products that were going to sell well, and I needed to really observe my market. And the market I chose was online entrepreneurs, as I've mentioned, or people creating their own online video products as well, teaching products. And I was looking at the market, studying the market, and I did notice questions kept coming up about, well, what, could I use my iPhone to create videos? Or how could I improve my videos with my iPhone? So I spotted there were people talking about it. I had the skills to be able to teach it from a professional perspective and to actually help people get the max out of this tool. And so really it was those reasons that made me really decide to narrow it down and focus, particularly for my first product, just on the iPhone, and the rest is history.
I think it's fair to say, having gone through your iVideo course, that a lot of what you teach in that is also applicable to Android phones, isn't it? Because although it may not be exactly the same in terms of some of the hardware and software, but the techniques you're teaching, which is really the core of the course, is just as applicable to Android, is it not?
Yes, it can be. It can be. I would say, though, that with Android, a few things are different. Like, for example, the accessories. There are not as many available for Android. Some of the apps, they usually come out on the iPhone first and then emerge later on the Android. So, yes, it's applicable, but as you mentioned, it is specifically, I talk extensively about iPhones. I mention iPads as well. So somebody with an Android might think, oh my goodness, this chap never shuts up about iPhone, and so potentially, that could be another training course, of course. But at the moment, I'm focusing on the iPhone, and I think generally the ecosystem around the iPhone is a lot stronger when it comes to video.
Okay, I mean, just going sort of looking at how making videos broadly, because most of my videos are my smiling face in front of the camera, and I haven't got any proper TV training or anything like that. I mean, how do you bring that sort of TV experience into an iPhone? And because you haven't got a big studio, you haven't got several cameras at different angles, and you've got all the complications of lighting in a studio. How do you make that transition? It must be very, very well for you. It must seem very limiting just to have this iPhone.
Well, yes and no, but the funny thing is that an iPhone is really as good as many of the HD cameras that I would use. Going back a few years in TV, my iPhone is actually a better resolution camera than the cameras I might have used, say, 5, 6, 7 years ago. That's one thing that's pretty incredible. The second thing is, end of the day, it's a camera. It's got a lens and you capture the image. What the iPhone doesn't have, for example, is a very powerful zoom, or I wouldn't actually recommend trying to use zoom at all on it. So, you have to work around that, and it's not ideal for every situation. Like, I wouldn't try and cover a football match from the sidelines using an iPhone. Otherwise, you'd have to run onto the pitch to get some close-ups, which is not good. You get a red card if you did that. Yeah. So, the iPhone's not perfect for every situation, but for us as entrepreneurs and course creators, we don't need those. We don't need that. What we need to do is learn how to capture crisp, sharp, well-exposed and good-sounding clips for our videos, and think a little bit creatively about what we're going to talk about on the videos and how we're going to make them come to life. And that's no different to what I would be doing in TV. I'd go into a situation and I would have to try and bring the situation to life and create a story out of it. And really, it's very much the same. It doesn't really matter what tool you've got. For example, if you talk about stills photography, some of the best photos ever taken were on very primitive old film cameras. Some of them only took one shot, and that was it. You had to go and develop the one shot. But some of the really famous photos were taken on very simple cameras, not high-end cameras. The reason being that, they were in the right spot at the right time and they used it well. And it really goes with the iPhone. If you can use it well, then really it can compare to any camera.
And while we're talking about sort of the iPhone, because I want to talk to you about a few of the sort of mistakes that people made, but just reflecting on, and we're recording this at the end of September 2013, the new iPhone 5S and 5C have just come out. I know you haven't had a chance to do any work with that, and I know you're very good at keeping your courses bang up to date. But can you make any comments about the advances in the 5S and the 5C? Because I know that's going to be something which is very typical and topical to people listening, and particularly, do people automatically at this point need to upgrade, or is the 4S and the 5 still a perfectly good tool?
Yes, absolutely. As you mentioned, I just got hold of a 5S yesterday, having waited. I went to queue up like you would expect me to do, and lo and behold, I couldn't get one on the day like a lot of people. So I just got mine yesterday, but I have had to play with it in the shop, for example. And obviously, if you're going into this iPhone world, depends when you're listening to this. Get the most recent one, get the one you can afford. That's the most thing, but don't let that put you off. A lot of people think, oh, I haven't got the latest, so I can't start making videos. Nonsense, really. I've happily used my iPhone 4 for a long time, and the iPhone 4S, and also I've got the iPhone 5 in this house as well. They all do an amazing job. In terms of the iPhone 5S you mentioned, it's got improvements. It's got a better lens. Well, it can basically capture a wider aperture, which means that you can capture better in low light. You won't get so much pixelation or grain in the image. So it's got a better lens. It's got this new slow-mo feature, which it shoots at a faster frame rate that gives you very smooth slow-mo if you want to do that. And that could be handy. Let's say you're making a physical fitness product. Maybe that's your niche. Well, wouldn't that be great to show you in action in slow-mo. That would be great for your training courses, but that's not essential for many people. So I would say that you're going to be absolutely fine with a 4 or a 4S or a 5. Just use it well. I mean, one major difference is with the older iPhones, the front-facing camera was a VGA resolution, so it was a low quality resolution, not ideal. The rear facing camera is the one to go for if you've got a 4S. The rear facing camera is the HD camera, whereas with the 5 and the 5S, you've got the both cameras are HD. There's a 720p, which is a sort of technical term for the front, and there's a 1080 for the rear. But either way, you could shoot front-facing, so if you want to monitor yourself, see yourself as you film, you can actually use the front-facing camera as well, which is an advantage. A lot of people who are doing like vlogging, they want to be able to see themselves whilst they're filming. So if they want to walk along the street and film themselves, it's nice to be able to actually see yourself. Otherwise, you might be cropping off your head. So advantage for vloggers with the higher-end iPhones. But in general, most people that I'm working with, what they really want to do is to be able to set up a great looking shot at their desk or have a little home studio to be able to put out training videos. That would be one major use of it, or sales videos. And the second one would be people who are doing interviews, so testimonials or creating content that they can leverage for their blog or use inside their training products.
I get all that. So, just talking as an expert filmmaker, I'm going to try and pick your brains now on how I can improve my video making. So, what are some of the mistakes people make when they make these videos that they need to look out for?
Well, several mistakes. One is not having a clear idea of the video and the point of the video and the actual target and the ultimate aim of it. So always have what is this video aiming to do? Particularly, I'm now talking, I imagine, to your audience. We're in the entrepreneurial audience, quite different to the filmmakers. And I purposely have not tried to make any of my training, totally relevant for pure filmmakers or people doing experimental art. Quite different, and that's all well and good. No problem with art here, but a lot of us guys are trying to actually create videos to have an impact, okay? So I think one thing is knowing what the goal of your video is. Is it to get people to come and check out your website? Is it to get them to subscribe to your list? Is it for them to buy your product? Be very clear what you're trying to do with your videos. That will really help you, so you're not kind of shooting aimlessly. So that would be on a sort of more conceptual side of it. In terms of the practical production side of it, I think the big mistake people make is not thinking enough about things like location, not thinking enough about the light. Light is so important in this. Light is food and drink to these smaller cameras, particularly because, again, these smaller iPhones or smartphones, they don't do so well as the bigger sort of DSLRs or more expensive cameras in bad lighting. So you need to help it. And literally, if you were to think a little bit more about how you're lighting it, how you're using, whether it's daylight, whether it's the available light in your room, whether you've already got some lights that you could use, or whether you invest in some lights. If you can think a little bit about the lighting, that will really elevate your images incredibly. And I think a lot of people, they don't want to maybe go that next step. And I think that next step's important because, you've got this amazing tool, this HD camera. If you just perhaps think a little bit more about adding a couple of extra elements, you've already saved money on the camera. You don't have to go out and buy one. So if you can maybe invest a little bit in thinking about the lighting, I think that will actually elevate the on-screen nature of your videos and how professional they look.
Yeah, and I know you cover a lot of these things in the course. It's... I find it at times frustrating, and this is why I'm so keen to learn, because I come at it and I look at the stuff you've made, and I look at other videos, and then I think to myself, well, God, mine looks so amateurish by comparison, and it's just being able to learn some of these basic techniques and know, it's the 80-20 rule. What do you have to do to improve 80% by taking 20% of the steps? And I certainly found a lot of the stuff you were teaching in the course, which I've just done, actually addressed a lot of those issues. Although, given my cramped little study, I don't think I'm about to turn it into a full-fledged studio tomorrow.
Right. No, you make a good point, because a lot of people actually, a few people have actually laughed at me, when they said I've got this amazing iPhone course and it's really, really popular. They've said, well, what's there to learn? You just switch it on, you press the camera button, and that's it. You hit record. What is there to learn? Well, there's so much to learn, partly because one of the huge bonuses with the iPhone is, as I mentioned earlier, the apps that are available. And many of the apps actually give you far more control over your camera than the inbuilt native video app. So I'm talking now about more control over things like exposure and focus, and being able to monitor your audio levels, being able to tweak your shots inside of the camera for contrast, and all kinds of things you can do with apps. And I think when you add apps into the mix, suddenly this camera becomes a much more powerful. So mastering those things, but it all goes back to the core things about, we're talking about composition, lighting, we're talking about audio, we're talking about directing. When I say directing, I mean, choosing the right location, choosing what kind of shot size to use, what kind of B-roll being other shots to capture that are going to actually help with the story you're trying to tell. So really, at the core of this is the basic skills of video production. But when you apply that into your marketing and you get confident with the tools and you practice, then I think you've got this kind of really potent combination.
So let's move on, because the next phase of really taking this all this video that we're creating is actually turning it into an online course. And I use Screenflow. Obviously, people on PC can use Camtasia. That seems to be the dichotomy. And of course, Jules, you've been kind enough to go to the trouble of producing a Screenflow course as well. So perhaps we can sort of turn our attention to that. I mean, what was your rationale, apart from, it seemed to be a logical extension? What was your rationale for moving and producing the Screenflow course?
Well, yes. I mean, as soon as you start creating courses, that's the most fantastic thing about it, is you get customers and customers tell you what they want and what they're struggling with. So, once I created this, it became evident that the natural thing from conceiving your videos and getting ideas and then actually shooting them is this process of actually cutting them together and making them into videos and editing them. And, I did notice that editing is a big problem for people, a big issue that people really, who have not ever, worked in video professionally or TV like I've done, it really scares them, this whole idea of, firstly, when you're sat there with a blank screen and the pieces of software that you don't know. And if you're a busy person and then you start thinking, well, how am I going to learn this quickly? Because right now everyone's so bombarded with information. And of course, I can't deny there's videos on YouTube and all kinds of places. And often you go there and they're quite old. They're like 3 years out of date. And there's like a 12-year-old, trying to teach you, and you've got his dog barking, and then he sort of leaves halfway through to go skateboarding or something. That's the issue with a lot of the training out there. So I thought, what can I do to package this into a product that's going to really take you quickly through understanding how to use Screenflow. But also, again, I narrowed down the angle a little bit. So again, I'm thinking more about online course creators, entrepreneurs, and using TV skills, because I spent a lot of time in TV editing shows. Now, I used to, if you're not familiar with TV, when a show is filmed, that's just one part of it. The actual editing process is where a lot of the magic happens with TV shows, because, I've sat there before at the beginning of an editing session with 200 hours of footage filmed of a reality show, 200 hours. And I'm sat there on my own with an editor, and my job is to make that into a magical 1 hour TV show that people are going to really talk about and share, and it's going to be a hit. And when you're sat there with an editor with that much footage, you need to start thinking clearly about what you're going to do with it. You need to really be organized. And also, the benefit for me was I sat next to these amazing editors and watched them with all their little shortcuts, all their tips and tricks, how to edit quickly and efficiently. So to me, that's been a huge advantage. And I've tried to, here and there, put a few of these tips into the course. Now, I know, my audience are not making 1 hour TV shows. Normally, people are making, 4 to 10, 15-minute videos. But I found a lot of benefit in being able to use what I've picked up, being able to actually teach other people how to edit better.
Yeah, when I first started coming across Screenflow, I did look at YouTube, but I found that I was just getting, a sort of very discontinuous, a sort of, a bit here, a bit there, and pulling it all together. So I was getting quite good on some parts of it, and there are other parts, annotations, call-outs, that sort of stuff, and I didn't have a clue really what to do with those. And you've got these different lines of, for the timeline. And, I was using maybe one or two, but didn't really have a clue about how you can, you start building them up and it all becomes, it looks incredibly complex, but actually when it just runs through, it then seems to make coherent sense. So it's certainly been helpful. I'm halfway through your Screenflow course and learning a lot from it. It's been very interesting.
Thanks very much. Yeah, what I tried to do is, for this one particularly, I tried to sort of make it no holds barred. I thought, if you were there in the room next to me, I just described how I used to sit and watch editors, but I tried to make it for my course. Like, if you were there in the room with me, watching me edit, let me show you everything I do. And I planned it out quite carefully to do that, because I think sometimes I watch a course and I feel like they've missed a step, or they've kind of fudged around something, and you suddenly think, well, hang on a minute, how did that happen? What I've tried to do is make it really incredibly detailed, from everything I do, every little step I do, and finding the music and choosing the font and all that kind of thing, and really making it step by step. So if you sat down and sort of looked your way in the room for a day or so, you could really come out of it feeling, right, you've cracked it. And it's worked, because I've had people taking the course starting to email me now saying, hey Jules, I want you to watch my video, I've just made it with your course and here it is on my website. And that's tremendous for me to actually go and watch other people's videos that they've actually had a real result from it. And what I want to say here is that what's so exciting to me is Screenflow, which is not expensive software compared to many edit softwares. It's got so much latent potential, but a lot of people aren't using it, or they don't know how to use it, and they're kind of making videos which are a little bit on the bland side, a little bit the same kind of videos over and over. Whereas what I find is that if you are creating anything online to sell, if you can really go the next step and really excite your prospects that are looking at your video, do something a little bit different, think out of the box, be more creative, your video, your product that you're making is going to stand out from similar products. And that difference can be small, it can be big, but it will be a difference, because it can be the difference between somebody actually buying your product or your training course and not buying it. So to me, that is a huge difference, a huge thing to do.
Yeah, on the Udemy Studio Facebook group, which is an open Facebook group for anybody who wants to do create online courses, particularly obviously for the Udemy platform. A lot of people put their first demo videos or their promo videos up, or their intro videos up, and invite comments, and it's very interesting. There's a very steep learning curve there, but people learn how quickly an impact they can make by just improving a few things, and when they get that right, then you can see the change in the comments where people say, God, this is so much better, and it's really engaging, and you're really funny, and it's got real pace to it. Whereas before they were saying, well, can't really hear your voice very well, there's this background noise, the lighting's dreadful, can't really see your face properly. And so, yeah, I mean, but gosh, how much time you save if you get it right first time.
Absolutely. You save time, you save money. And I think you make a good point there, because it is a process. You're not going to immediately get it right, but particularly with the sales videos is, literally improving it over time. And anything I can do to help people do that faster, I'm really happy to do so. And again, the faster you can get things working well and start selling, then you can, devote a whole more time to marketing what you're doing. But if you spend weeks and weeks trying to get your head around one small aspect, that can really slow you down. And I'm all about, getting from A to B a lot quicker. So if I can help people literally in a day get really quick. And, what I've done inside the course is I've broken down my own sales video in step by step. And you could actually go in there and pick out what I've done there in terms of a bit about the graphics and a bit about the music and the pace. And I put the music from my training videos into my course, which you can actually use for your video. So I've really tried to make the A to B a lot faster for people.
So just sort of rounding things up, you've gone from being this amazing A-list TV producer to this little life on a laptop, stay at home. How has your life changed from all this digitalization, this digital product creation?
Yes, great question. Well, I'm feeling rather pleased with myself because I think I've actually made, it's been a significant change what I've done here, and I'm really pleased that I did it because you know what? I find as much satisfaction from creating a product and getting feedback and getting people sending me emails saying how much they've enjoyed it and found it useful. I get the same feeling as I used to get in TV shows where I used to be able to actually read the critics' reviews if it was a good review, or I would hear people on the London Underground, talking about the show next to me that I made. I would hear that on the Underground, which is a fantastic feeling, don't get me wrong. But I get a very similar feeling because I've been able to create my own audience. The difference being here that I own none of the assets in TV. I was a gun for hire, so I would work on 12-week contracts. I would work ridiculous hours that you would never imagine, really, really long hours, and very little time to do for any sort of other things in my life. And so this has been a significant change because now I feel like I own my assets, I can leverage them, I'm not affected by other people's decisions about whether they would hire me or whether or not I'm good enough to do this next TV show. I know I'm good enough to make courses and I can just get on with it and create my own path. And I found it pretty amazing, and I can quote many examples when I've had people sign up to my course. I've been on holiday recently over the summer, and looking back a few years, taking a 3-week summer holiday would be anxious as a freelancer for me. Would I be booking it and then suddenly somebody would want to give me some work? Could I turn the work down? When I came back from holiday, would people remember me? Would I be able to get more freelance work? Full of anxieties. I can remember in holiday once waiting around for hours on a hilltop in Greece with my mobile, waiting for a phone call from somebody in TV. Would they give me a job, when I got back? And I wasted like half a day waiting for this phone call. So difference being, this year I went on holiday and sales of my products were just coming in like daily. Amazing. And I was literally just enjoying myself, and I was earning while I was holidaying. Plus, I knew that when I got back, things were going to continue and I could create I can create new courses. So it's been a total kind of shift in how I control my own destiny, really.
Yeah, I call it the ka-ching moment, when you suddenly get a little notification on your phone that says so-and-so has subscribed to your course, and you think, ka-ching. It's great. Where can people learn more about you, Jules? Where can they find you?
Well, yes, I've got a blog, which I'm not particularly good at updating, but I'm going to definitely crack on with it now. That's my new resolution, which is at videohero.com. So it's really simple. It's videohero.com. That's my blog. And I dare say you've got some links there if people want to check out my courses, right?
I'll set up some links to the video course, which will be jbdcolley.com/iPhone. And we'll set up a link to the Screenflow course, which is jbdcolley.com/Screenflow. They are affiliate links, so if you do click through to them and you decide you want to make a very worthwhile investment in Jules's education, then I will certainly benefit, and the podcast will benefit. And I thank you in advance for your support. Jules, what do your courses cost?
Wow, that's a $1 million question. No, of course it's not. Well, my courses cost $97. They both cost $97.
Which is that's about 60 quid, which, given the amount of time I know you must have put into it, and actually the amount of benefit I got, just even though I made stuff with the iPhone, I think that was money very, very well spent. So that's I think that's tremendously good value, and there's much more stuff out there which is a lot more expensive. So those will be available through the show notes. On videohero.com, you've got contact information and things, have you, if people want to try to get in touch with you?
Yes, I've got contact details there, and I put some sort of extra tips and things like that about video, or videos that I spot that I find are particularly interesting, and kind of break them down. So there's definitely some learning on that site. But most of what I do is sort of packaged into the products. And like you said, I'm very good at updating things when new things come out, and in the Screenflow course, I'm even adding a bit of extra content here and there, because I just want to give like so much value to people to make sure that they get the end result. You know, my goal is the end result of what other people can achieve. So if I need to add something in, I do that. So they're quite fluid courses, which I think people really do appreciate that as well.
Brilliant. Well, we're going to have to try and persuade you at some stage to create something on Udemy. But the whole point about the Online Learning Podcast is it's not a Udemy podcast. It is an online learning podcast. And I think it's brilliant that you've been able to host this on your own site and really make the impact that you have. I think it says a huge amount about your own marketing and obviously about the appreciation your audience has for the quality and the learning you're producing, because obviously the word has been spreading and people come and buy your courses. So, Jules, I really appreciate the time you share with the Online Learning Podcast community. There's been some fantastically interesting comments and insights. I strongly encourage people to go out and check out your course. And don't forget, you know, if you do want to sidestep the affiliate link, that's absolutely fine. Just, you know, you'll see where it's taken to you. Just go then indirectly into the site and buy the course directly, in which case Jules will get the whole value, which he thoroughly deserves. But I don't want this to be an affiliate drag. I want you to use the affiliate link if you want to, and by all means go directly if you want to, and that's definitely the policy of this podcast. So, Jules, thank you very much for your time. We'll have to get you on when Screenflow 5 comes out or the new generation of iPhones come out so we can keep updated. But until then, thanks for joining the Online Learning Podcast and for giving of your time and your knowledge and experience.
Excellent. No, thanks very much indeed for having me.
It's great. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks, Jules. Wow, we covered a lot there, and although we've gone slightly longer than we usually do, I'm sure you'll agree there was some fantastic stuff from Jules there. So, Jules, thank you very much indeed for being a guest on the Online Learning Podcast. I really appreciate it. Now we're going to turn our attention to this week's free course recommendation. Let's take a look at this week's free course of the week. This week's free course recommendation is entitled Adding an iPhone and iPad to Your Photography Workflow. The course has been created by Scott Wyden-Kivovitz, and I hope I pronounced that correctly, Scott. The course is designed to show you some of the inbuilt features of the iPhone and the iPad, enabling you to work with them with your photography project. So I thought this was a very good complementary course to the iPhone Video Hero courses we've just been discussing. Now, it's not meant to be a completely comprehensive course. It is free after all, but you're going to be able to learn about planning your photography sessions and some of the apps and tools on the iPhone and the iPad that you can use in order to help your photography projects. And each video is going to give you a brief overview of some of the products that are available and what they can do for you. So I thought it was a really interesting course. It's got over 1,000 subscribers already. The course has got a total of 53 lectures, so you've got several hours of content there, which I think you're going to find very interesting. And I hope you get a lot from it. So that's Adding an iPhone and iPad to Your Photography Workflow by Scott Wyden-Kivovitz. And I hope you find that very helpful. So that's it for this episode of the Online Learning Podcast. Don't forget, if you want to find any of the links, just go to the show notes, which you can find at jbdcolley.com/OLP for Online Learning Podcast 006, episode 6. That's the standard convention. And I look forward to seeing you in the next episode very soon. So that's it for another episode of the Online Learning Podcast. I really appreciate you being with me. If you enjoyed the show, I would really appreciate it if you would go over to iTunes and leave me a rating, preferably a 5-star rating if you think it's worth it, and a comment. And then if you email me, john@jbdcolley.com, that's Juliet Bravo Delta Colley.com, I will send you a free coupon code to my Udemy course, An Introduction to Startups, which has got 40 minutes of video teaching you all about startups. So thank you very much for spending time with me today, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. This has been the Online Learning Podcast.